Good morning, everyone. It's Robert from On My Turntable. Hope you're having a great morning this morning. It is Tuesday morning. As always, a coffee kind of morning. Hope everyone's doing well. Glad to be back after a few days. I'm not going to explain that work thing again. And I'm here today to talk about and discuss and give my opinions on this unique album. It is Dark Side of the Moon, Redux, a new reimagined version by Roger Waters. I've kept the hype sticker. That's the hype sticker there, obviously. Kind of a cool picture, and if you look closely, you can see the original album in the eyeball there. A unique album, a different version of the fantastic genius that the original was. I will not be comparing it to this album. This is a masterpiece. This should be, if it's not already, in some type of museum somewhere. It is 50 years of greatness. Every time I listen to it, I hear more and more and more into it. So I will not be comparing it to this one. You cannot compare it to this one. You cannot. It is, again, one of the greatest albums of all time. This is Roger Waters' version of what he felt maybe the album should have been, or more enhancing the meaning of the album in some way. But so again, I will not be comparing it to the original album. It's produced by Roger Waters, of course, and Gus Seifert. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it features Roger Waters on vocals, of course, and spoken word, as the majority of this album is spoken word. It's like an audio book with some singing on it. And he plays bass on Any Color You Like. Doesn't play any other instruments throughout, as far as I know. The main players are Gus Seifert, the producer. He also plays bass and synthesizer. Joey Waronker on drums. The drums are kind of weird in this one. They don't sound full. They don't sound full. Jonathan Wilson on guitars, very subtle guitars. There's no lead work at all, so very subtle. Nicely played though. And Johnny Shepard on organ and piano. So no previous members of Pink Floyd on this one. No guitar solos where you expect guitar solos to be. That's why you have to almost not eliminate, but just shut down your version of this album. No Claire Torrey, no Dick Perry on saxophone, or any sax for that matter, and of course no Alan Parsons producing. Well, he was working on his sixth album, The Lockdown Sessions, where he kind of strips down his work and some Pink Floyd stuff. He came up with the idea, well, maybe I should redo Dark Side of the Moon for the 50th anniversary. In his weird way of thinking, maybe. I feel he's eccentric. It's his images and thoughts and ideas. So again, the original one was released 2000. Sorry, I apologize. This was released October 6, 2023. It's a complete remake of the original album, which was released in 73. As I said earlier, I'm not going to compare the two. For the most part, I enjoyed the album. But I've enjoyed the original one for close to 50 years as well. And I just had to completely blank it out. At 80 years of age, Roger Waters' vocals are a combination of Tom Waits and Leonard Cohen, in my opinion. I do love his speaking voice, though. It's kind of cool, kind of that old English way of speaking. Again, it felt like an audiobook that I was listening to. Not that I listened to audiobooks, but I just had, if I was listening to an audiobook of this album, that's what it would sound like to me. So I did appreciate that. According to Waters, he didn't want to intend to replace Dark Side. He just wanted to bring out the true meaning of the album that's in his mind. Again, it's all about Roger Waters. But according to Nick Mason, the drummer for Pink Floyd, the original drummer for Pink Floyd, he thought this Redux was brilliant. And it is in some ways. Brilliant. It is in some ways eccentric, in some ways kind of weird. But overall, it's either the critics hated it or they got the meaning of it. They were positive about the album, as well as most fans. And I think most fans hated it because they're comparing it to the original, and you can't do that. What do I think? Again, completely erasing the original from my mind. Overall, I enjoyed it. I did. It was an enjoyable journey. It was interesting. I was waiting to see what would happen next. The only track I wasn't impressed with was Money. I didn't like Money at all, because where you expected certain musical parts, there was spoken word. Then it got into this montage and bizarreness of boxing and either promoter ripping the boxer off or the manager ripping the boxer off. I don't know. And it was all about greed and money, which is that's what the song is about. But in my thoughts, the original was about the management ripping off the band. That's what I thought Money was about, or just the greed and ignorance of and arrogance of money. But he went on to this boxing montage, and it just went on too long. Again, his speaking voice aged well, being at 80 years of age. But when he does sing, it's bearable. It's not the greatest vocals. He's never had the greatest vocals. He's got a unique voice that adds power to a lot of the tracks that Pink Floyd put out, and I do appreciate that. But again, you can't compare him to David Gilmour, because David Gilmour's voice is heavenly and is so good. But it does add to the uniqueness of this album, the speaking parts, the accent that he uses, like his English phrases. That's kind of cool. And when he does sing, it's kind of a joy, because it's just like an old man kind of just sitting in a chair singing, and something about that is appealing, and something about that is unique. I don't think it should have been called Redux. I think it maybe should have been called Revisited, because it's not it's you cannot replace the greatness of the original album. I did enjoy Breathe and Time and Us and Them, and again, I disliked Money greatly. But one thing I did notice, when you're listening to headphones, especially, you don't hear that when you're not. You can hear definite breaks between each track, which I thought was kind of weird. You don't hear that on the original. You don't hear it when you're listening. But when you're listening to headphones, you hear noticeable breaks. I don't know why that was. It's definitely a stripped down version, audiobook type of album, and there are parts that I really enjoyed, annoying in others. It's interesting. It's kind of brings you into the mind of how he thinks, whether that's possible or not. Where you thought there were expected solos because you're so used to hearing there are spoken words, which I didn't appreciate much. But overall, I enjoyed the album. Will it stand the test of time like the original does? Still does. Still finding moments in that original album that, just shock you and surprise you. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. It's not perfect in any way. I don't know whether he'll continue on with the rest of the albums that he was involved in. I really don't know. But as a completist, something you want to discover. But check it out. Again, don't compare it to the original. Don't compare it. 2 different albums. This is his image and mind and thought process of what he felt this album was more about. He wanted to bring out more of the political aspect of the album. You got an 80-year-old, not that there's nothing wrong with being 80-year-old, but he's got his, he's still got bitterness maybe towards his previous band members, even though he says everything's cool now. It's weird that he's eliminated everyone from even the thought of this one to bring it into, reality. It would have been cool for the whole band to get together maybe to do it. But anyway, that's another story. Now check it out. 7 out of 10 for Roger Waters, The Dark Side of the Moon, Redux, a new reimagined version. October 6, 2023. There you have it, guys. Have yourself a great rest of the day. Love you all. We'll talk again soon. Bye now.